Everybody, welcome to another episode of the Gym Life Podcast athlete interview portion of our show. And this is somebody that I've been trying to get on for quite some time. Life gets in the way and it's hard to work these things out as soon as we like sometimes. But thank you, Amber Hansen, for joining me. If you don't know Amber Hansen, you are living under a powerlifting rock. She is a top 5 world competitor in both raw powerlifting and multiply. Ranked in the top 5 now, I think. We just mentioned that. And her last show, of course, was a multiply in Cincinnati. And how did you do there, Amber?
I placed really well. I hit an 800-pound squat, 475 bench, and then a 530 deadlift.
Yeah, right where you thought you'd be, right?
It was a good day.
It's crazy. Watching you, and thanks for joining me, watching you, just how I can and how we all kind of follow each other on social media. It just amazes me, the kind of power that you have, but it's not so uncommon anymore in the sport of powerlifting and strongman to see some crazy ass strong women out there. And you're kind of in the middle of this new sort of revolution in that scene right now. How did you get involved in powerlifting?
Yeah, the women's side of things is going crazy right now, and it's super, super cool to be a part of. I did my first contest in 2016. And then I had been lifting, just recreationally since I was in high school for sports and whatnot. My dad was a power lifter too in the late 90s, early 2000s. So I kind of wanted to get strong for roller derby, which is what I was doing prior to finding powerlifting. Found a barbell gym in Dayton, Ohio, and then coach basically just put me in a meet, and it's been going since then.
So you had some natural kind of ability coming into it, I'm assuming, especially with the background that you had. Did you shock the world? Was it one of those moments where your coach was like, holy shit, what do I got going on here?
Oh, no. I had, decent genetics coming into it. Like, dad is built just like me. Mom's short and stocky too. But, I started off just like everyone else, like not knowing how to squat the barbell properly. And
Sure.
I think my first meet, my numbers were nothing special, but just time and pressure kind of built up to this point.
Yeah. And it wasn't a lot of time, really, if we're just talking, 5 or 6 years ago. I mean, certainly your dedication to your craft is what's helped you propel you to the top of the ranks right now, which I don't think a lot of people appreciate as much as they should. Because when we talk about a lot of great athletes in the strength sports in particular, to be that good, it really becomes a full-time job. And that's kind of where you're at, I'm guessing.
Yeah. If I'm not at work and we're sleeping, or programming and coaching, I'm at the gym, I'm training, I'm making my meals, I'm eating my meals, I'm doing my recovery mobility, like everything that is outside of work basically is, making sure my body's okay and able to do the stuff that I want it to do.
It's funny you say that, or not funny. It's one of those things that you hear nowadays that you probably didn't hear 10 or 15 years ago. When you talk about strength athletes in particular, there's this methodology now that a lot of the work that you're putting in isn't actually underweight. It's preparing your body and maintenance in your body and getting it ready to lift heavy weight. What you just said resonated with me because as an older guy, I look back now and say I could have bought a little bit more time had I done the things that you're doing now to kind of prepare yourself to be great. What are some of those? Explain a little bit to what that is exactly in your schedule when you talk about your maintenance and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has come down to just being injury-free for so long by the strategy behind like how I structure my training and how I kind of go back and forth between equipped lifting and raw lifting. So that has kind of saved my joints in a sense with putting on the equipment. And just like day to day, if it's a training day, like I have certain, numbers and things I need to hit in terms of meals. If it's a non-training day, I got to do my mobility every day. I got to make sure that water is getting in. So bringing food to the office, waking up, making sure that, all of that stuff gets taken care of. As soon as I'm done with the office, I'm coming home, letting the dogs out, getting all my stuff, put together, changing, ready to go to the gym, get my training session in, and then really like the biggest things are making sure that I eat. Because if I'm not eating and drinking, it's going to be bad. And that workout is just going to be worthless.
You know, it's funny that, you know, when we talk, the old adage for powerlifting used to be just grab whatever you want and put it down. And, you know, powerlifters and strongmen, right? You always had that they always had the reputation, like, can eat and do whatever they want. They're just going to be strong. But a lot of what you're telling me, you sound like a bodybuilder almost.
Honestly, like I did my first like stint of kind of like a meal prep training thing with actually an IFBB pro, and she did all my meals for I think 8 to 10 weeks.
Yeah.
And I was counting macros up until then, and it absolutely does matter what you put in your body, the type of carb, fat, and protein. Like if you want to, I mean, you can get strong and be big, but if you also want to be athletic and mobile and like stick around, like you got to do certain things a certain way to make sure that your body can survive that.
Yeah, and you see that more, I think, today too, with athletes, strength athletes now are looking at that picture as opposed to heavy and hard, get to where I want to go fast and furious. And then the after effect of that, of course, is a limited span of being athletic and participating in competition. Those things, you fall apart pretty quick. So using the word athletic, you never really correlated that to strength sports. I mean, I get it. I'm spent a lot of years in strength sports. I'm not putting down those guys that did it prior to us. But the truth is, I mean, that was never correlated to the sport to be athletic.
Yeah. Yeah. That's honestly probably the biggest pillar of my training since I've started training for a competition is we're looking to build athletes who also power lift. And I give that credit to being one of the reasons why I've stuck around so long without being injured and, you know, knowing how to move your body and like feeding it well and all of those like good corny things that you hear, like it's not just a bunch of BS and snake oil, like that there's it's something legit to that.
Yeah, the fuel you put in your body, right, and the way you eat.
And,
I mean, you just said it a minute ago that you had a pro that was doing your diet prep before you, and you know macros matter. I mean, it's a cliche, but it's true. I mean, what you're feeding your body for the type of result you're looking for. Because as a strength athlete, you're walking a fine line. You want to make sure you're kind of in surplus to build that extra muscle, but at the same time, you can spill over just as easily and go backwards.
For sure. And we're also in a weight class sport, like with all these big money meets that are coming up, they're getting, you know, you think about the Kern, the Showdown, the American Pro coming up, a lot of the USPA money meets, like people are cutting down and they're trying to get that coefficient score up there. And it's not going to work if you're just, you know, kind of skating along type of thing.
Right. Well, every pound matters, right? And when it comes down to that score, and the difference could just be body weight.
Yep.
You know, just coming in as efficient as you can at a certain weight, as opposed to just sort of coming in and falling where you might fall.
Exactly.
Yeah. It turns into a bit of a strategy, no doubt about it. I train a couple powerlifters at the USAPL, just for beginners, amateurs, you know, and to explain that you can literally be in a real bad spot if you're 5 pounds heavier than somebody else doing the same amount of weight. So
right. Yeah, it's a very interesting time to be in it. And you're hit it on the head, the strategy involved, especially with something if we're looking at like the WPO with the multiply side of things. Like sometimes that comes down to the 10th of a decimal, and you might need to just either you're doing all the calculations on meet day and whatever you weighed in at, like, oh crap, I need to add 2.5 kilos on this deadlift last minute if I want to, you know, edge out the next person.
Boy, I'm sure you've been there where it was calculated incorrectly and you missed it because you didn't put and you had it. You know?
I just wish they would put it up somewhere, like the current standing. There's some meets that do it, and there's a lot of them that don't, but that would be nice with the coefficient.
Well, I'm sure you've got a handler in the show that kind of handles that stuff for you now. So that takes the pressure off and
for sure
puts it on them, because that's a serious job. Don't get that wrong, right?
Oh yeah. I've been the handler. I'm over there with my little phone calculator out, sweating bullets, like, you know, carry the one.
Second guessing yourself the whole time, going, do I even have this right? Am I looking at this the right way?
Yeah, like this is what you need to pull if you want this. Go do it.
You know, you're part of Andersen Powerlifting, which, well, listen, it's at the top of the world right now. I mean, Jimmy Cobb, referring to Jimmy, and I know you're a friend of his and you do a lot of training with Jimmy and from the same parts of the country then. And of course, now you're going back to Ohio. How does that team, how do you just kind of give me the sort of the barometer of Andersen powerlifting for those out there that, you know, that are big fans of the sport and know Jimmy and know yourself, and what are we looking at on that team right now?
Man, that is a special group of people, I tell you. I got to finally meet all of them. They brought us all out for the Arnold and we all worked the booth together. I finally got to meet everyone on the team, and it is Ken Andersen and Kevin Pittman have like specially curated that group of people to be incredible athletes first and foremost, but then also really good people. And like, it's something special when you get to be around a group of people that cares about the sport so much that you also care about, and have those conversations with them and just like bounce ideas off of them and kind of pick their brains. And it's really cool. And all the Andersen equipment that they've, you know, so graciously gifted me, I'm loving for sure. And I don't know if you know this, but on the unlimited side of things, the band shirts, Rayanne Miller just broke the highest female bench of all time, was 620. And it was mine at 615. So she just took that over, I think this last weekend, and she's Team Andersen as well. So Andersen has like every bench record
I was getting ready to say
right now. Pretty sick.
Yeah, the biggest in the world for both men and women right now. That's freaking crazy. I mean, it just is.
Proud as hell to be on that team.
I bet you are. You're just on cloud nine. You know, that's a culture of lifting that everybody dreams of being a part of, and the amount of knowledge you have on that team. And not only that, it's a team that appears to me that just is constantly pushing each other, man. I mean, you guys are in competition with each other to some degree, I bet, with all those personalities that want to win.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. The ladies side for sure. And then also like the men's side, the baddest venture that just happened down in Texas. Most of the roster was Andersen athletes.
Yeah.
We had Calais that came in, him and Emma came in from the UK, and that was really cool. And then Rich Putnam finally hit his 1100 in that meet. And then, you know, Rob Farrell was up in there and Tiny. So it was just like, dang.
The who's who. Unbelievable.
Yeah, seriously. Like the bench gods. It's pretty cool.
Oh, that is so much fun. I'm in envy of you right now. That's got to just be great going into, and you're feeling good. You got a lot of years ahead of you. This is going to be a lot of fun to watch. Where's your multiply bench at? Where your foot bench at right now?
So my multiply in a poly shirt is 475.
Okay.
And then my 2-ply band shirt. So I'm in an F8, a Pharrell band shirt.
Yep.
And that's 615. Okay. And there's a big, huge bench invitational coming up in September that the roster's also stacked. That's up at Rita West Gym in Syracuse, somewhere in upstate New York.
Okay.
But the female and male roster is just huge. There's going to be multiple 600-pound plus female benches, multiple huge male benches.
It's crazy. We're using the word multiple right now. Like,
right.
There's so many out there. Oh
yeah. Man. I remember when it was a big deal, like, oh my God, she has a 500-pound equipped bench. And now it's like 600, same thing with deadlifting, like 400, like, and raw benching. 315 is the new 225 for women.
All day long. Yeah. For reps.
Like crazy.
Oh, it's so crazy. I mean, I've watched you and others do it, and it's just like, it's like you're humbling a lot of dudes out there. And I know not to be sexist at all, but I'm sure you get some pleasure out of that.
Nah, I feel you.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I see you do some overhead pressing. I think you have fun doing that.
I do. We've been on a kick lately. So I'm 10 weeks out from the American Pro. So from basically the Pro-Am back in April till now, it's been like a big high volume hypertrophy block. And one of the biggest things is shoulder hypertrophy. So we're trying to do higher reps and heavier weights with the overhead movements just to build that up. I find there's usually a direct translation between my overhead and my floor press are going up, my bench is going up. Yeah,
I totally agree. And actually, I'm surprised I don't see more of that in programming, you know, today. It's a
Mhm.
bit innovative, honestly, because a lot of programming doesn't include any overhead pressing.
Yeah.
And
A lot of
maybe
people don't have the
maybe
shoulder
there's more
mobility.
nowadays than there used to be, but boy, it's when I was watching you do that over the last couple months or whenever, as you've been posting your videos, I was like,
Mhm.
man, is she getting into strongman? What's going on here?
No, no, no.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe someday, but
I
I've,
know. I'm
I've
going to keep
dabbled in
hoping.
Highland games a little bit, which
Did
was
you?
freaking fun. Yeah, I did one contest a few years ago.
Yeah. I got my first contest in about 10 years this weekend.
Hell yeah.
I just turned my first caber, just turned it first time.
Did you?
Oh, it was
That
like,
is something else, isn't it?
oh, it was just amazing. It was better than like all my gym lifts put together.
Right?
Yeah.
It's so gratifying because it's just like this huge, and even just picking it is
Yes.
something amazing because then you get it up there and you're like, shit, now what? And you're like
Yeah.
rocking back and forth. The
Yep.
thing's the telephone pole.
Yeah. I
So
literally got a
cool.
shot at this, that's because picking it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But isn't it funny once you turn it once, all of a sudden I turned it like 2 out of the next 3 times.
Yeah. Because now you know what it feels like. And it's like, okay, I got it now.
Yeah. And
And
what took so
it's so
long? Yeah, this is
picky.
crazy.
I know.
So how did you do in your Highland Games?
Oh shoot. I think I got second overall.
I would guess you're going to muscle it pretty well if the form's not there. That's the way I'm hoping.
Yeah. The one that killed me is the sheaf toss.
Okay.
And I didn't have much time to practice. Like I threw a little bit in high school, so I figured out, light and heavy weight for distance and weight over bar and Braemar. I was pretty good at Braemar. I freaking chucked that thing, which was fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I bet you did.
Hammer's cool too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
sheaf and what was the other one? I got rocked by the caber because that was the first day I ever touched it. Was at the contest.
You walked into the contest not doing a caber? Oh no. Oh,
Yeah,
God.
I mean it was a local like Ohio contest in the middle
Yeah.
of a cornfield somewhere, and we
Sure.
had our clubs out there, which was cool because the guy who runs it out at the Arnold, he was the one who ran this one, and he is buddies with our folks at the gym, so he helped us with implements and gave us a few lessons. We were like, cool, let's get some kilts, we're ready.
Yeah, it's just fun to do that, isn't it? It's just something different. You can kind of throw your hat in the ring just to do it and enjoy the pageantry of it a little bit.
Yeah, go play outside with your friends and
throw shit around, drink a couple beers when you're done, and call it
exactly.
Yeah,
totally good time.
Awesome. I was going to ask you, with you're in the military.
Mm-hmm.
And you're in the Air Force, just to let everybody know out there. And you've been in for 11 years, you mentioned. How when I was in the military and I was lifting and trying to compete and doing some powerlifting back when I first started, getting kind of that schedule down was difficult. How are you managing that over the last few years? Is it tougher than most people would imagine, or?
A lot of people have it way worse off than I do. So I think I got really lucky. The last few jobs and duty stations that I've had bosses that have been really supportive and commands that have been really supportive and like wanted to, make time for me to do these things. Cause I also would, bring back to my units like, hey, we're doing PT. Do you guys want to learn some like squats or deadlifts or like some sort of strength technique instead of maybe running? So I always try to pay it back and bring it back to the unit. And then the Air Force has a really cool program. It's the We Are All Recruiters program. And they'll give you free leave. Basically, they'll let you go permissive TDY. If you like, I'll go to the Arnold or go to like a big expo or something, and I'll wear my Air Force t-shirt and like link up with the local recruiters, and I'll get to go on not burning my own leave, which is really cool.
That is awesome. That is such a great program.
Yeah, it was amazing when I found out about it, and they've been really supportive. They put me in for the Air Force Athlete of the Year in 2020, which was cool.
Yeah.
I got to take home that title, the first strength athlete to ever do it.
Wow, that is so cool. It's got to be fun. And not only that, you represent the Air Force. I mean, there got to be, when I was in, we always wanted to show people who we had, and there were a couple big bodybuilders back in the day when I was on base that got a little preferential treatment in that respect too, because again, they just kind of, wore the colors, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you represent your team, just like Team Andersen, just like Dirty Gym, just like Team Unleashed, like I'm Team Air Force. So like if I can do something good for them and maybe bring them some recruits or like
Sure.
spread the gospel, whatever.
Right. That's right. Hey,
Like I've had a good time.
We need more people to join the military these days, I'll tell you.
Right. Seriously.
You were, you know what, I didn't know this until you told me before the interview. I kind of guessed. I was thinking roller derby, right?
Yeah.
Because you are great on a set of skates, and how you pull that off, being as muscular and as big as you are, you're pretty damn graceful.
Athleticism first.
Yeah, you're right. That shows it. How'd you get into that?
So that was actually my first sport as a kid, not roller skating. I was a figure skater for like all of elementary school and middle school. And then I started getting too big and bulky, and they were like, yeah, maybe not so much. And I was always the jumper and never like the pretty fingers, whatever. So, and then mom was like, this shit's expensive. And then basically stopped doing that. And then went to my duty station out in New Mexico, wanted something to do, found a roller derby team. Like, this sounds fun. Threw on a pair of roller skates and joined that team. And then I played for Clovis Roller Derby in New Mexico, and then West Texas out in Lubbock.
Oh, yeah. That is so cool. That explains why you got such massive quads. All that skating.
Well, for the longest time after I started, my left quad, I was so left quad dominant because that's how we turn it. That's like the inside leg. Yeah. And there was a huge imbalance that I had to work out.
Yeah, I guess you would never even think about that unless you got into powerlifting, right?
Yeah, and I'm like, what the hell? Why am I so left side dominant? And I'm like, I'm not left-handed or left-footed, so.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's interesting you say that. Yeah, I can see you kind of outgrowing that sport, or outgrowing the figure skating pretty quickly. I mean, genetically, you're just built to powerlift. Oh my goodness.
Built to pick stuff up, put it down.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Thanks, Dad.
How does that make you? I'm not going to be all cliche and stuff in the interview, because you've probably done this 100 times talking to people about being a woman and what predominantly was a man's sport for all these years. And, I'm not that guy, but I understand the question for some people, like saying, where do you put yourself? How do you feel you represent? I know you're a part of, what organization are you a part of? It's
Main Event Project.
The Main Event Project. That if I understand that correctly, as I watch it, that's kind of what that correlates around, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Main Event, we created that. It's not as bad as it used to be, but there are still some like disparities between the way that men and women are treated within powerlifting, especially at meets. Prize pots are, sometimes not equal. And also just like educating and empowering. Like right now is an amazing time for women in strength sports, because there are just so many, like it's multiplying. Like there are full meets that are 2 days long, 4 days long. They're just women. And like, you think about when Laura Phelps and Amy and all of those ladies back there, they had to call and beg to be invited to the WPO and be like, Can I just be a guest lifter? Like now? So we created that for it to just kind of be like a level playing field, or just bring attention to certain things and get meet directors and stuff on board, and for us to raise money and take that money and give it to, meet directors so that we can sponsor these prizes, so we can make everything equal out a little bit. Yeah. It's been great so far. Like we have so many different partners also with the female weight classes. Most of all the big federations, actually all of them, have increased their weight classes so that 198 plus is no longer considered super heavyweight. They at least have a 220 and a 242.
I saw that was added more recently, wasn't it?
I think that was end of last year, early this year, that kind of came to fruition.
Yeah, I did see that, and that was a great move, I thought. For on a lot of levels, it was a good move. Not just on a competitive level.
Yeah, there's so many lifters, and a lot of lifters, like we pulled all the data for like who makes up those weight classes or would make up those weight classes. And there's a lot nowadays. And it also kind of like opens up like the floodgates, because like maybe you were a 181 and you would cut down to 181 because that's where you wanted to be. But now like, I have all this room to grow.
Yeah.
And we're going to see like my new class 220, freaking stacked nowadays.
Yeah.
Like we're going to see some like the 242s, like, you're going to see
It's going to be fun to watch. And I like the way you kind of broke that down because, I brought it up on my podcast about the time when I saw that news come out, and my mind was kind of going in that direction. Like what was the thought process? Someone could kind of throw a dart and kind of hit it, but I like the way you just kind of broke that down. It really does drive it home a little bit better that through the numbers that they calculated and understood that there was a need for it. It wasn't just sort of, here you go, we didn't give it any thought. We're just going to, you know.
Yeah, like we went as far as like calculating the potential growth over years of if this growth rate continues within these weight classes, this is the number of powerlifters we'll have in that weight class in 5 to 10 years. So we got real freaking dirty with it. So we did.
That is so cool.
The tangibles and intangibles, because there's a lot of other stuff that, like, I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist and can't even begin to start to talk about these things, but there's a lot of like body dysmorphia things that both men and women deal with.
Absolutely.
And a lot of women seeing their name up on that board under super heavyweight just mess with them a little bit. So there was a lot of that stuff that can't really be calculated, but like testimonial stuff, like putting into words. And it's growth for the sport overall, which any point in that, and like I'm all down for. So
those are some good points there on the psychology, and I thought about that as well. I thought it played a role on a couple different levels, and I'm glad to hear that I wasn't too far off with what you just described. It goes without saying, and I can speak on behalf of 90% of all lifting fans out there now. I really believe this because I've talked to enough people and enough athletes over the last year. The women's side of things it's as equal, if not bigger, than the guys' side of things right now because of the amount of great lifts and great, just performances that we're seeing almost on a weekly basis anymore.
It's getting nuts.
It's nuts. And I think we're all bigger. I know I am. I make no bones about it. I'm a bigger fan of the women's side of powerlifting and strongman in the two sports that I particularly love the most. And by far, I just am, because we're seeing things right now, and we're a part of a culture that's allowing us to see history happen.
Yeah. I think the frequency at which history is made on the women's side, it's because there's a lot of these things that have never been done before, and the women are being brought up in the sport and are growing exponentially, that they're being like record broken next weekend, that record's broken, and the competition is so tight amongst the weight classes. There is like a saturation of really good elite female lifters that are head to head at any point in time. And it's exciting. It's exciting to watch.
Yeah. And people love that competition, that rivalry. It just drives sport, doesn't it?
It's hard to find in powerlifting too, because it's not like, if we're talking strongman, it's not like you're going head to head with someone running down a lane against them. It's not like fighting when you actually have like a person that you're battling with and, physically fighting, like you're going up and you're just not hoping, but your numbers are going to be better than someone else's. And there's one person on the platform at any time. So it's hard to do those kind of like head to heads.
It really is. And I think in a large part because we kind of know as powerlifters, our numbers are somewhat predetermined. We know if we hit a perfect lift, we're not making up huge ground. You're following someone. Yeah.
I think along those lines, I don't know if you know who Micah Marino is.
No.
He runs the company Fight or Quit, and he's got a gym out in Vegas. And I think he's on the exec board for WRPF, but he's running a lot of these meets now, kind of like MMA. And he's doing like press conferences before, and he's doing like lead up promos of like, this person's going to go head to head with this person. Like, who are you taking? Like,
great.
Now. So there's kind of a little more stir in that competitive advertising, if you will.
Yeah, that I agree with 100%, because what we've seen even through with the USPA is doing it, which I think, they put on more of a rock star type show.
Yeah.
A lot of fun to be a part of, a lot of fun to spectate for sure. And I always used to give USAPL, which of course we appreciate USAPL at the level it's at, because it really introduces powerlifting to a whole new crop of young people every day. You know, there's somebody young joining the USAPL, which eventually might get in the WPO, might find themselves somewhere else. And I always thought that it was just so boring. Just so boring. Up until this year, they literally made everybody look the same. It was like I was in some weird movie or something.
Yeah, it was.
But even the USAPL is catching on now. They understand the future of the sport needs to be more dynamic.
Yeah, their pro series that they've done recently has been very cool. And I always go watch them at the Arnold. Like I'll watch that. I'll watch XPC, like Last Bencher or Last Man Standing on the bench stuff. And like they do a good job in the production and also like feeding people into the sport. And I also think people are probably going to have my head for this one, but that is one of the most professionalized organizations.
It is.
Like people have asked me before, like, well, should powerlifting be in the Olympics? Personally, no, I don't think so. No. But that is the closest thing that we have is the USAPL when it was attached to the IPF. I agree. Right. They got their own drama going on there. I guess not anymore. USAPL is doing their own thing, but and good for them. I mean, listen, sometimes you outgrow people, right? You move in a different direction. For sure.
But that's cool. So what's your next meet? Well, wait a second. I was going to ask you, now you're a WPO lifter primarily, right?
No, actually I've only done the WPO once.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So I did semifinals a couple years when the COVID Classic Arnold, I did semifinals there and bombed out, which freaking sucked. And then I did last year's WPO in Florida.
Okay. Okay.
So if I'm competing equipped, I'm usually competing in the APF WPO.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, APF and WPO. Yeah, and you said your next competition coming up is?
That is the American Pro January, July 29th. That's a WRPF meet. I'll be in Raps Classic Raw.
Gotcha. I can't wait for that. I have a lot of fun. I've watched a lot of your raw lifts. I think they're pretty sick.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, to me, do you have more fun doing raw? Are you impartial to either? Don't really care.
Oh, 100% equipped. I love equipped so much.
You like the weight. You love the weight.
Oh, the pressure, I've said this a bunch of times, but I compare equipped lifting to me is a lot more like Olympic weightlifting technique wise than it is powerlift, like raw powerlifting. Yeah. Because like any little wrong thing that you do will just you'll eat a bar or, you'll totally go down. And it's I like that danger factor behind it. I like the pressure. I like the overload. Raw lifting is just, it's still fun, but it just beats me the hell up.
Yeah, I bet it does.
I don't have that protection.
No, I agree. I agree. I thought maybe you'd like raw. We like to sort of correlate raw a little bit sometimes with, at least the gym guys do, right? You see these big power lifters lifting raw and you kind of draw some relationship with them a little bit because a lot of people don't understand equipped lifting. That's why. However, I think it's becoming more widely known. I think a lot more gyms and a lot more groups out there now are training equipped. I think the sport in itself is growing exponentially. I honestly do. I think you may have seen it as well. But you're right. Yeah. Talking to Jimmy and talking to some other guys down by me, Ben Pauli and stuff. And it's a Warriors group. It is definitely a Warriors group, that multiply.
Yeah. There's just something a little bit off about every single one of us.
All of you are a bit off your rocker for sure. Yeah, there's no doubt. Well, hey, Amber, I appreciate you joining me today. I hope we can have another chat again. I think with all of these great athletes I have on, including yourself, there's more of the story to be told, I always say. And this is a great way to meet you and a great way to just sort of introduce my audience to who you are. And I'm sure most of them already know. You certainly made a great reputation for yourself. You're a lot of fun to watch, and appreciate you being on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I had a blast. I'm glad we finally got to link up.
Yeah, and you're on your way to let everybody know in case they want to stalk you. You're moving to Dayton, so.
Oh yeah, I'll be at Dayton. If you guys want to come swing by the Dirty Gym, we got drop-ins. Come say what's up.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm not too far from you, just north of Detroit, so I may even drop in at some point myself.
Yeah, come train with the crew. I'm sure we got a pair of briefs that'll fit you.
Oh my God, stop it.
Let's go.
Maybe. All right. Thanks, Amber. I appreciate it. All right, have a good night. All right,
bye. You too.